This is a comparison review between the Fitbit Charge 2 and the Garmin Vivosmart HR Plus, specifically for runners. This extended version of the review adds a longer intro, unboxing, measurement taking, as well as a closer look at both apps. If you prefer the shorter version, there is a link for it down below in the description. Otherwise, enjoy this longer version of the review. Thank you. Hi. I wanted to do a comparison of a couple of popular fitness trackers. The first is the Garmin Vivosmart HR Plus, and the second being the Fitbit Charge 2. Both these are fairly recent 2016 trackers. Why am I doing this review and why did I try these? I wanted to get a new Fitbit. I did use the regular Fitbit HR before this. I sort of destroyed it, but I was really hard on it and doing yard work and things, so I wanted to do a comparison. And the videos I saw out there on YouTube didn't really give me enough, so I thought I would do one. So if we start with an unboxing, and let's see what we have in here. Here we have the Garmin, much more of a simple box. Shows the Connect software. Interesting enough, it says works with iPhone 4S. iPhone 4S is really old. I'm assuming that's a minimum requirement there. Shows people jogging. Very simple box in this. Very simple box indeed. Fitbit Charge 2, fairly pretty box. It shows us our features. Much more sort of modern or aptly box, it comes apart. Very bright colors. I don't know if that's coming through on the video. This one's a little dull. Very bright colors, very nice picture in the front, very glossy picture on the front, showing our tracker. Let's get our size. So what I'm expecting on paper, the Garmin is much more feature rich. Because it is the HR Plus, it has a built-in GPS. The Fitbit Charge 2 does not. So you may think that may not be a fair comparison, but I'll get into a little later why I'm doing this. I've been using the Fitbit HR with my phone in my hand while I run, and I listen to music anyway, so that was okay for me. Now the promise of this is that you don't need to run with your phone. I may still have my phone on me because of music, but I'll probably stick it in my pocket. Right now I'm running with it in my hand so that it can get the GPS signal. So what I was doing is pairing the old Fitbit HR with my phone and getting steps from the Fitbit and satellite information for mapping from the phone. Now this has this pairing feature where it can get the satellite from the phone and get stats right on the Fitbit. The old Fitbit couldn't do that, so you could run and get your map later in the app, which is perfectly fine with me. So I'm wondering how this will stack up, and that's why I decided to compare these. The promise of this is you don't need your phone. Can that work? Can that work? Can that work for you? What's important for me when I run is I need my pace and I need the distance. What I liked about using the app while I run is it gave me audio prompts. Every half mile it told me my pace and it told me my distance and time. This does more though. It does cadence, like how many steps per minute. It does elevation. This does not do steps per minute. It does not do elevation. But again, that is on paper. My goal for this review is to really put these to the test and figure out which one of these I will use. And then I'm gonna make the winner. I'm gonna keep the winner. I'm gonna use it. So we'll see how that goes. So let's get on with the unboxing. Enough talk. We got a charger, got a starting manual, and we have the fitness tracker itself. You know, first impressions, the band is thinner than I thought it would be. It's rubbery and stretchy, which is nice. It is definitely much thicker than the Fitbit that I'm used to, and that was one of my concerns with the product. Is it going to be too thick on my hand? You know, does it stick out too much? So we'll try that. We got a little label here. Okay. This does have, we got our sensor here for the heart rate. There are 3 of these on here, while the Fitbit has 2. Is that better? I don't know. I've heard from others that it is. But where it comes to accuracy, and we'll compare the numbers later. The other physical thing, this band is not removable. You'll see on the Fitbit in a minute that on the Fitbit it is a removable band. They all have sort of odd chargers, no sort of standard USB charging here. This is how it charges on this. So if you want multiple charging cables, you're going to have to buy some more, simply because you won't be able to use any of your standard cables with that. Fitbit. We got to break a little tape here on both sides, it looks like. It's a trusty Swiss Army knife. Yay, Jerry got it open. All right. More tape. As I said before, much sort of nicer box. So it looks like we have some documentation there. We'll get to that. Check that in a minute. See what I mean? There's even sort of a tag here. And there's our tracker. Also have our sticky around it. The band is thicker on this one, as you can see there. Overall, you know, feels pretty good. Very stylish, I would say. You know, sort of this black. Let's compare the size wise, is what I was afraid before about the size. And you know what? On these two are very close. Well, I'll do some measurements, but I think you know, the Garmin is a little thicker, but those are really close. Obviously, this is much bigger than the previous Fitbit. Here's my old Fitbit. You can tell, like I said, I really wore it out. So we'll do measurements again, but yeah, no, it's really close. So maybe my judgment about the thickness of this is unfair. You know what? This is narrower, and maybe because it's narrower, it looks thicker. But maybe that was unfair. I'll do some measurements in a minute. So again, you have your 2 heart sensors. These are removable. You'll see here there's a clasp there. So these come out. Figure out how to do that in a few minutes. And then you can replace these. You can get leather ones and all. So they've really gone for more style. You know, very appealing. If you're going to wear this all day, you want something that looks good. And I think that looks pretty good. This is maybe our more sort of a traditional style screen. So what have we got in here? Looks like safety manual. Setup tells you to go to fitbit.com. And in here, we need our trusty knife. This will be our charge. Oh, I could have pulled it open. We have our charger, and interestingly enough, I talked about that there's no standard charger. This charger is different than the previous Fitbit HR. So even within Fitbit, they are the same. So I guess this clasps on like that to charge. Interesting. Okay, but again, is different than before. The old charger looked a little different. All right, let's do some measurements because this measurement thing really has me interested. As always, you can check the official stats on the packaging or the internet to see our measurements, but I like to get the real world measurements. I got some nice tape on here so that it doesn't scratch the device. All right, so we have at its thickest part here, we got 14.9 millimeters. Outside of that bump, which is our heart rate monitor, we got 12.9. Check the Fitbit. At its thickest part, we got 12.97, so 13 really. And then outside of the bump, we got 11.1. So the Fitbit is a little thinner, 12.9. So the Fitbit is a little thinner, not by much though. If we go with thickness, we got on the Fitbit, its width is 21.25 millimeters, while our Garmin is 21.15. So it is, if I give it a squeeze, I get really 21 even. So we got 21. So it is thinner, just a minute thicker. By comparison, if we take this old beaten up one, the width on that was 21, and at its thickest part we got 11 millimeters. So it is. Wow, that is much thinner. It's much thinner than I thought. Just eyeballing it, it didn't seem that way. But the old Fitbit definitely is much thinner, getting under 11 if I give it a squeeze, and 10 even at that part. So the old guy definitely thinner. These are both very, if looking at style, I just put them off. I'd have to give it to the Fitbit. This does look really nice. They've done a really good job with making it look good. And I think that the fact that you got the two-tone here with this stainless steel side and the dark below it, I think it's a good way of camouflaging the thickness. It's kind of like when you get thin laptop and it's kind of tapered in the front. I think they've done a really good job there. They just looks thinner, while this being sort of plain gray all through, you don't get that get thinner look. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge these up. I'm going to use both of them, walk around with them, and then I'll use both running. I'll show you the app on how these work. Obviously, this uses a Fitbit app. This uses a Fitbit app. That's the Fitbit. This uses the Garmin. The other thing to mention is because the Fitbit is more popular, you see it more of your friends will have it, and the social aspect of this is really big. It's very motivational to have your friends come in, you have challenges who can get more steps, while the Garmin does have social social features, and you can't compare things. I don't know what their challenges are yet. I'll have a look at that. You'll probably have fewer friends using this compared to that. So that is a big aspect of it. So that's another thing to mention. All right, so let's charge these up, and we'll see how it goes. Having a look at the wrist shot, as we saw in the measurements, it does seem a little high. I have a 7-inch wrist. Just looking at it, it will stick up. The advantage of it sticking up a bit is if you're wearing a sleeve while running, it's less likely to be covered. But there's a shot of it on the hand for you. Here's a wrist shot of the Fitbit. As we mentioned, it is a little thinner. Looks a little thinner on the hand too. And we have that sort of a two-tone look, so it looks even thinner than it really is. But there's the wrist shot there. How do the two compare side by side? The Fitbit is wider but skinnier. The Garmin is narrower but taller. Skinnier band on the Garmin. One thing I want to mention about the band, the Garmin's band is very stretchy. See, if you look at that, it's a nice sort of rubber stretchy, and it also has significantly more of the fitting holes. The Fitbit is much more solid, doesn't stretch as much, and has fewer of these fitting holes. The result is that the Garmin is far more comfortable to put on and get the right fit, while the Fitbit is it's kind of tougher to get that exact right feeling of it not too tight and not too loose. So I think for comfort, the Garmin wins out. So if we get into the functions on the Fitbit, we have this button here. If you press it, it'll cycle through the modes. Obviously, I'm not wearing it right now, so you don't have a beats per minute. You can start your run. You have a stopwatch, and this is sort of like a breathing function that you can do. That's unique. The Garmin does not have that. And then going back to our distance and calories burned, see the sort of goes off. So that's if you cycle through it. Now on this screen, you can go to and see the rest by hitting it. So first you have to hit the button, and then by hitting it, you see that 3 and 4 steps. You gotta sort of click it. So I don't honestly, this hitting function is kind of hit and miss, if I can put it that way. You sort of sometimes get it, sometimes don't. I'd prefer if you had everything cycle through on the button. So again, if you turn it on and then you cycle through it. As you cycle through these, the run menu here can be actually more things. If you do your usual tap, you have weights, treadmill, workout. That's pretty cool. On the old Fitbit, you had to just hit the button and tell it what it is afterwards, and that's also really nice that you can have these on the Garmin, you pretty much have walk, run, and cardio and other, and you can't really select them there. But it's great to have them there right on the Fitbit right here. So for general other activities, that's great. On the Garmin, we have several things. So first of all, it's always on. This is a passive display, so what that means is it doesn't give off light, but if you do tap on it, it will. So if you're looking at it in the dark, you won't see anything. That's done to save battery, but if you hit it, it will go off. So what's next? The way that you actually get the next thing on the display is you swipe up. So there are our steps. That's how many the number of steps we have now. That is our goal. You notice an odd goal of 82,000 or 8,212. The reason why it's such an odd number is that it's a dynamic goal. If you achieve the goal, it'll ratchet it up a little bit to try to get you to do more. And so if you keep getting more, it'll try to get you to do more. There are our number of floors. That is intense active minutes per week. For you to reach that, calories burned, number of miles. Our music, you can play it. Now, people have said, you may have seen some of the other YouTube videos where people said, well, it only plays local music and it doesn't play Pandora. That's not true. I mean, if you, when I show you the app, you go into the settings, you set it to Pandora or whatever app you have. When you hit play, it'll play it on your phone and go forward or back. So it can go and actually work with Pandora. So there's our weather. This is another neat little thing that it tells you the weather. It gets that from your phone, gets the location of where you are via the phone, and downloads the weather. So you have that available. Very kind of smartwatchy. It's a great feature to have. So it says no notifications. The notifications on here are fantastic, where it will show you all the notifications you get on your phone. Emails, text messages, calls. You can read a whole email here. Now, mind you, the screen is a little small, but especially on smaller emails, you can read it. Text messages tend to be smaller, so you can see it right there. Can't reply, but you can read it and sort of dismiss it right from the screen. The Fitbit will show you when somebody's calling. It will display the person is calling via a voice call, but will not show other notifications. So that is a really great feature of that. This works much better than I thought it will. Both of these try to get you to move periodically. There's our heart rate and showing you your current heart rate and the average. I'm resting it on my finger right now, so that's why it's working. You can also swipe to the right and see sort of the last 4 hours of what happened with your heart rate. And there's back to our time. As I started talking about getting you to move, this will have sort of a move bar on the left. If for a certain amount of time you're not moving, it'll say move, and it'll have a bar here, and you have to do a certain number of steps for it to go away. You see it sort of going up. If you keep not moving, this move bar will go up, and then as you start to do your activities, it will go down. The Fitbit does have something similar during work hours. It has this, it just shows up and says move. It doesn't have a move bar or anything. It just says move, and then you have to move it. And then inside the app, you can go in and check when you actually moved. So more info in the app. In this one, while in the Garmin, you have a bit more information on the screen. We have this little button here which brings up a sub-menu. So what we have within this sub-menu, see there's 3 of them. Our top one is our exercise. We have cardio, run, and other, and walk. Not much more than that. When you select these, it'll ask if it's indoor or outdoor, meaning if it's outdoor, it'll give you GPS. Here, the little moon is a do not disturb. That's an alarm. If you set up alarms on the app, you can see them here. Bluetooth menu, just to sync with the phone. Or to pair with the phone. This little button is to sync. You can click that and force a sync. And that's a Find My Phone feature. If you click it, it'll ring your phone if you don't know where that is. So that's pretty handy. Over here, we have this archive here, which I really like. So you can do 2 things. One, past activities, and get details on how you ran, so which is really cool. But what I like even more is you can look at your records. You can look at what was your fastest mile, your fastest 5K, your longest run. That's really neat. And then you can just remind yourself about what stats you have, and then that's right on the device. Our I for indicator, the most convenient thing there is the battery indicator, which is something that doesn't come up on the Fitbit. You need to check that on the app. So that's really nice of having that, and just some more information: the serial number, GPS, etc. So that's the sub menu on the Garmin. Something really important to mention is not all steps are created equal. What I mean by that is, wearing these 2 together on the same wrist, I had much higher numbers of steps on the Fitbit. It's very difficult to determine which one's correct. I did some testing where I wore both of them. I walked 500 steps, counting my steps. When I did those tests, the Garmin was far better. It was almost spot on, while the Fitbit was undercounting. So I got, for example, walked 500 steps, got 502 with the Garmin, but got 450 with the Fitbit. So that was a surprise, considering it's overcounting in others. So just based on that, I would have to conclude that the Fitbit is counting steps a lot more when you're doing other things other than walking or running. In order to do this, you'd have to really do a scientific test, like wear a foot pod and check your steps with the foot pod and compare. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's not that important. As long as it's consistent with what it is counting, it doesn't really matter if it's not 100% accurate. So take it, as you may. I noticed there's some other YouTube videos out there that show that the Garmin is more accurate and the Fitbit is overcounting. But again, I can't personally comment on that. I just know I'm getting between 10 to 20% more steps on the Fitbit. Okay, so let's see what this really looks like when we're running. That's most important, right? Starting with the Fitbit, I'm going to cycle to the activity, which is still set to run. I am then going to hold the button to start the run, and the timer starts immediately. It is now trying to get a satellite lock from my phone, as you can see it there. No real indicator of whether it's got it or not. As it sort of goes off, we hit the button again, and it's acquiring the signal. You sort of assume it's got it, but I don't really know. Okay, so on to the Garmin. We're going to go to the sub-menu. Then I'm going to select the activity. I'm going to select Run. I'm going to then select Outdoor because we do want the GPS. And what it's going to do now is it's going to wait to acquire the satellite lock. I think this is a good thing in that you know exactly when the lock is achieved, and you don't want to start running beforehand because then you won't get proper tracking. Notice the great contrast on the white background with the black writing on it. Very visible. You can just take a glance, you know exactly what's happening. Again, with the Fitbit, it is off until you hit that button. So even while you're running, I mean, you can do the wrist flick and it'll show up also. So either the wrist flick or the button will give you what you need. But on the Garmin, it is on the whole time, and you don't have to do any of that. So there we see the bars go up. We get our ready signal, and the timer goes to 0 and tells us that we're good to go. So what we have to do now is hit the button to start our run. So I fumble with the recorder there. Here we go, and we're starting our run. I wanted to show you the lap pace as we come up to the mile here. So you see the distance hit a mile, and what's going to come up on the screen, there it is. Our lap 1 mile was 9 minutes and 16 seconds. And that'll happen every mile, which is great for showing you your lap speed. So I stopped here and I wanted to cycle through what you see. Here we have the music player, timer and distance, and our pace. I'm stopped right now, so we don't have a pace, but you'll see as I move forward, pace is going to kick in. So this is what you're currently running, what your current pace is, and of course the distance. So there it is, and as I go, it goes down. Next, we have a timer and calories. We have a heart rate and what zone we're in. Remember, this is a numerical zone up to 5. Our average pace and timer, and I love having pace and average pace. And back to our clock. And our music and timer and distance. Okay, so on our Fitbit, I'm going to do the wrist flick, and there it is. Showing the steps, that's the last thing I had on the screen. I tap it, you got time, got miles. We got our beats per minute, and it shows you the cardio there. That's the zone. As our pace, again, I'm stopped, so let's move forward. And it should kick in with our pace. There it is. Oh, it went off. Again, it's not always on. So there's our pace. Tap it again, and we got average pace. So again, calories, steps, miles, distance, our heart rate and zone, our pace, and average pace, and calories as we cycle through it. All right. So how does this look at the end of our run? I'm going to tell both of these to stop because we're completed. Let's start with the Garmin. Going to hit our button, telling it that we are done. It's giving us a time. Want to make sure we want to save it. Yes, we do. And it saves it. And it tells you we have a new record. Was the longest run. Great. Giving us a time and average. And this is now viewable in our app. Moving on to the Fitbit. I'm going to, first of all, turn it on, hold our button to tell it to stop, tells us we're done, and it's going to give us some stats that we can cycle through about our run. Average pace, etc. Notice they have elevation there, which is interesting because that elevation is there, but it doesn't show up in the app. You'll see that when we get to the app portion. I don't know why it's there, but maybe that's something they'll add in the future. Okay, so we're ready and we're able to now go into our app and have a look at the results. So let's look at the apps. This is our Fitbit app. The first thing I wanted to show you is what I was doing before when I had the Fitbit HR, how I got it to work with the GPS. What I did is I went to track your exercise, and then up here we have this little stopwatch. So I would go in there, and that would actually turn on the GPS. And you can set it up to have voice cues every certain amount of time. I set it to every half a mile. And what you see we have a GPS lock. It has it locked, and we hit go. And what that does is it looks at our time, the distance you've traveled, and your pace. And this is on the screen constantly, but you can lock the screen, and then you keep running. And as you run, it will give you the voice points, as well as this pace is actually average pace. And at the end of the run, when you hit, and finish, you hold it down. It will, now it's telling me obviously it didn't go very far, so I'm going to discard it. But that will have it here available, and you'll be able to go in and have a look at information. So it will get the steps from the Fitbit. It will get your heart rate from the Fitbit, but it'll get GPS information from your phone. So that's available even in the in other Fitbits like the Fitbit HR, and also works with this new Charge 2. The Charge 2 has this feature where you do not need to have the phone running the app. It will automatically connect to the GPS and work that way. So there is our Fitbit app. Very nice sort of basic design. Steps, your floors and distance, etc. If you click on it, we clicked on steps, you can get more information about how many steps you had, which days. Going back through history, you can see sort of averages. Very interesting historical perspective. Same thing for floors. As you see, each of these has historical information. Here is that tracker I mentioned to move during the work hours, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's not really true work hours. It depends on when you work, I guess, but it is during those hours. Tells you to move. You have to do 250 steps every hour during that time, and then charts that. So it tells you how many of those 9 hours you actually did. So Saturday I did 8 of 9, 5 of 9, 9 of 9, 0, etc. It actually maps it out here for you, and you can customize it here, which days and which hours you want to do it, right? So it doesn't have to be between 9 and 6, but that's the default. Here is our sleep timer, or rather sleep analysis. I don't use this a whole lot, but I'm sure there's people that are very interested in this. I tend to sleep well. If you don't sleep well, you're more likely to be interested in that. So we can click on that. Tells you how many hours you were sleeping. How many times you're awake, how many times you're restless, etc. This bar is fairly new, telling you your sleep pattern on different days, sort of awake and asleep, restless, etc. It gives you a visualization of your sleep pattern. And going back in history. So you have goal here. You can set your bedtime, your wait time, even a reminder for bedtime. Okay, so challenges are a really key part of Fitbit. Like I said, you'll have many more people that own a Fitbit. When you make friends with them, you see him here in the friends, and you see how how many steps they got. And then you have challenges, and you can go into a work week challenge, for example, which is getting the most amount of steps during the work week. Get some of your invite your friends to it and start. There's a weekday weekend warrior, a daily showdown, goal day. The work week hustle really is the more popular one. It's sort of a 5-day from Monday to Friday. This sort of new thing here about going in and walking, it sort of gets you to sort of simulate certain walks. So here we have like a New York City walk, and walk past iconic landmarks, etc. It tells you you'll do about 8,000 steps, and so pretty much you go through that. So it's I haven't tried that yet. It's something you may want to try if you do get the Fitbit. But that's that. I mean, if your weight goal, like I said, it does have a scale called the REOut, which is really convenient. That if you do have a Fitbit and you have the scale, it'll input your weight right here, and you can see your historical information. That's really key. I mean, I think a lot of people get these fitness trackers to lose weight. So having that available right in the app and having graphs in different times is really a great, it tells you your body fat also. That's a really key part of the scale. It's not just weight, but your body fat. So that is, that's really nice. So the more important thing about tracking your exercise. So one interesting thing about yesterday, which was the day that I did that run. It was a fairly busy day for me, so it detected that I did some walking in the morning on Saturday, that by itself, without me having to do anything. And then we did this this run, which is the one that I was showing you the interface. So with this run, I can go into it. Having a look at our map. If I click on it, you can zoom in and have a look at what you did. It tells us our distance, our time, and our pace, and that's really the average pace at this point. And when I talked about using the app to get audio prompts, that's what it tells you. So here's information about our splits, how fast you did certain you did the laps, which are really the miles. See, it's all over the place because I was stopping to do recording. As you saw on the Garmin, this information is actually available while you're running. It tells you that. Here it's only in the app. We got our heart rate, obviously a big decrease when I stopped to do some recording. It tells you your zones. They do zones in terms of sort of rest, fat burn, cardio, and peak. And the Garmin does it by numbers, but that's how the Fitbit does it. Calories, impact, how many steps, and what you did recently. So that's that. Very nice graphical information. So a fairly simple design, very easy to use. Can't go wrong with this. It really is nice to use, and I don't have any problems with it at all. And here's our Garmin app. It's called Garmin Connect, telling our steps and our sleep, our activity. So if we go into activities, we see the running we had. So these are obviously runs that I tracked. I went in and hit the button. Interestingly enough, it did not detect, if you saw in the Fitbit app, the kind of walking I did early on Saturday, that wasn't there. The run there that I started, but it did not detect that automatically, which is interesting. So if we click on our steps, this interface is what can I say? It's sort of less pretty than the Fitbit app. I think the Fitbit app is designed really for ease of use. This is really more about the content. So it tells you when you got the steps, your floors climbed, etc. Interesting, it splits the number of floors ascended and descended, which is nice. And again, the goal is sort of auto goal, which is set there, and that'll keep going up as long as you meet your goals. It'll go up, and you can also set that yourself. And we can go back. There's the Saturday when obviously we did the run, so I had many more steps, and you can cycle through it that way. Here's our sleep. Very similar kind of a sleep pattern that we have here. Light sleeping, deep awake, which is a little different where the Fitbit had restless and awake. Nothing more than that. Can't click on any of these. And you can edit your goal, your sleep hours. Okay, so if we go into our activities, it tells us our there are calories, active and resting, and total calorie use. All right, intensity minutes. Intensity minutes. We have the weekly goal of intensity minutes. Tells you which days. Obviously, the days that we had the run, it has these, and days that I didn't run, it didn't. And obviously, this is fairly new, so it doesn't go back there. And you can edit your goal here. Floors. So yeah, so let's look at these, the information out of the running, which is really what we're after. So we have our distance, time, our calories. Here's our map with also the weather that we experienced. And all of the information, far more information about the run. We got average pace, average moving pace, best pace, average speed, the times, the heart rate maximum, and average. There's our run dynamics with our cadence, steps per minute, which the Fitbit doesn't have a lot at all, and our elevation. Interestingly enough, when you saw that when I finished the race in Fitbit, it actually said something about elevation. That's not in the app anywhere, and I don't know why. I mean, they're obviously starting to implement that, but here we have elevation, and so you can compare when you've done runs that where elevation changes the most. Here's information about our lap times within time, distance, and average pace. That also did show up as you saw in the on the device when I was running. And here we have some graphs with our pace, our heart rate, the different levels. So similarly, I was recording here, and our cadence, step per minute, and our elevation. What I like about the Fitbit heart rate is that it was very clear about the zones, how much time I had in peak, and that's really what you're after, is to get that peak heart rate. So while we have that line here in this graph, which is nice, it would have been great to have like the Fitbit to have information about how many minutes I had in peak. I'd really like to know that. So this gives you the ability to edit the activity. You can take some notes about it. You know, how did it go? What were you doing? Just for your history, and you can share that also with your network. You know, elevation gain and all that. Very quite a bit of data there. So as you see, especially on this page, you do get far more information about your run than you do on the Fitbit. Now, clicked on it there, and I get sort of the more information about the heart rate. You can have an overlay, which is really nice. Wow, that is great. Again, getting much more data out of it. Overlay your pace and compare it to the heart rate, which is really nice to have. Yeah, elevation if you're doing. Of course, my heart rate there has nothing to do with the elevation because it had to do with me stopping to record. But as you see the elevation, and you can see how your heart rate is affected by the elevation. You know, still wish that it gave us the zones. You know, interesting that it tells you the zone while you're running. It's interesting that it's not here. Okay, the other thing about the app, sort of that's your day. You have more information here about certain things. So there's sort of more information about your steps and what it thought. Now, remember how I mentioned that it didn't detect the day. Well, on that particular day where I did do the activity, it did show some things down here, but there was no way to bring that up and get that information in of you know, saying that I was doing walking or something. There's more in the app here in the menu. Leaderboard is where your connections are. I don't have any connections since I don't know anybody that has this yet. One interesting that it does is it creates a challenge for you that you can go in with people you don't know. It sort of looks at people that are in a similar kind of profile than you and puts you in a challenge with them, which is great in that you don't have to know anybody and yet you go in and get put in the challenge. I really like this. It's a great way to motivate you, even if you don't know people that have the Garmin, and it's a way to really overcome the fact that not as many will have the Garmin as the Fitbit. If you sort of win or come to the top of these challenges, you get automatically bumped up to the next challenge, which is really great for motivation. I wanted to go over some of the options in this, and this is really what makes this app fantastic in my opinion. So let's go to Garmin devices. There is our Vivosmart HR, and some of the really awesome things. If you go to activity options and go to run, you can have certain information of what you want to display. You know, auto lap that shows you the lap every time you run the mile. You can have it pause if you stop. But data fields here, to me, this is the most fantastic thing here. So this, you can customize what gets shown on your tracker as you run. So if you remember when I was running, I scrolled through this, you know, you go timer, etc. So this on page 5, the average pace and the timer, that wasn't there. I added that. And you can set up whichever order you want. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to move this average pace up here next to the regular pace. So I can just flip up and down and get the pace. So if you click on it, you know, page 5, we have average pace. What do you want in field 2? You know, you have your choice of timer, distance, pace, calories, etc. I mean, this is, you know, even lap pace. So what I may do is take out one of those and put in lap pace. You know, I may not need a timer in this field, so I'll put lap pace. And now we got average pace and lap pace. on page 5. So this is phenomenal. This is very powerful. As you know, if you're running, you want as much information as possible, and having the possibility to customize your display of the tracker while you run is absolutely phenomenal. Display options. So this is configuring the pages while you're not running. As you can see, that's also customizable. You may not want floors climbed or distance notifications. All of that, you can turn those off and on. Again, the power of customization is really fantastic. To me, the more options you get, the better. Now, another thing we have in the settings is the default music player. Remember I mentioned that it can control other music? So you have a list here of what you want to control music with. And there it is. I have Pandora selected. You'll notice that, right? By default, on this Android phone, it was Google Music Player. So when I hit the button, it would play Google Music. And I suspect that on the iPhone, the iTunes Music is the default. And you should also, on the iPhone, go in and select Pandora. But now that Pandora is selected, right, I'm going to close off our app here, just generally in the phone. There's our tracker, right? It's sort of... Oh, there we go. Right. So there's the move bar, by the way. As I've been sitting here, it's sort of telling me to move. So interestingly, the difference between this and the Fitbit, on the Fitbit, it tells you to move, but there's nothing on the tracker. On the Garmin, we have this on the tracker, but there's really nothing about it in the app. So let's go to our music control. There it is, right? And Pandora brought up. I'm going to go to the next song. And there's the next song. I can pause it. I can play it. So as you see, it can control Pandora. It can control your other apps. So you just have to configure it. So there's much more in this app. I didn't cover everything. I only covered the things that I was able to do. You can do courses and segments. It is really a far more deep app where it comes to usage, and play around with that when you get the opportunity. So if we look at a list of the pros and cons of both trackers, let's start with the Garmin. Really like the always-on display with the large lettering. Swiping to the next screen works very well, and it'll even illuminate if it's dark. So even though it's a passive display, when it's dark, you swipe to the next screen, it'll be visible, or you can tap on it to get the current screen to illuminate. Having all the notifications, not just phone calls, like it is on the Fitbit, is great. Having the weather is great. This makes this tracker feel a lot more like a smartwatch. I know it's not a smartwatch, but having these notifications in the weather makes it feel like a smartwatch. And the music controls too. Having that is fantastic. You can put your phone in your pocket. I'm sure most of us listen to music when we run, and you can go to the next song or pause the music as you're running. Really great feature there. And again, that is available on any app. You just have to tell it which app it is in the settings. Having a lot of data while you run is great. Having the current pace, the average pace, your lap times, all of that's really handy. You just swipe up and down to the next screen. It's customizable. You can customize what you want to see on that screen while you're running. You then get more data after you run in the app and on the web. Things like matching your heart rate with the elevation. You don't even get elevation on the Fitbit. And superimposing all those graphs, things like cadence, all those things, you really get a lot of information that you that you don't get on the Fitbit. The fact that it has a built-in GPS is really great. The fact that it tells you whether it's locked onto the satellite so you can start your run, really, really good job. On the cons, the heart rate zones are numbers. So after the results of your race, it'll tell you that you, for example, spent 50% of your time in zone 4, or the average zone was 3. Yeah, that's okay. The Fitbit does it really great, where it tells you that you had, first of all, their numbers are not, their zones are not numbers, but names. It tells you that you spent 30 minutes in the cardio zone and 45 minutes in the peak zone. That's much more valuable. Now, as far as I understand it, this is a model feature. So some of the more higher end Garmin devices do actually tell you how much time you spent in specific zones, but not this particular one. So in the conclusion for the Garmin, really great for running. If you run, you're going to love this device. Moving on to the Fitbit, the Pros, very friendly app, very nice looking app. It's really pretty, very easy to use. I talked about the heart rate zones. It's great to see how many minutes you have in the heart rate zones, and calling them by a name as opposed to a number is great. Far more users in the Fitbit world, you will far more likely to catch people that have it and be able to connect with them. The display is bright in that it gives off light, and the keeping track of the hourly moving is great. It tells you to move, and you can actually check that in the app while on the Garmin. Tells you to move. It has that bar, but you can't check it afterwards. Some of the cons: the display turns off, and I don't like that. You can tap the screen to get it back, or do the wrist flip, the wrist flick. But yeah, they're so. I'm not a big fan of that. Conclusion, I think this is a great general friendly device. If you don't really run, you just want to track how many steps you walk and do some challenges with your friends, and this is probably going to be the device for you. Both of them, by the way, have a scale that you can buy and track your weight in the app. So that's the conclusion. I hope you pick the one that's right for you. For me, it's definitely the Garmin because I do run and like that. Okay then. Thanks, and again, happy shopping and enjoy your tracker.